In the heart of Tenochtitlan, a city of shimmering canals and soaring temples, Moctezuma II was born into a world of splendor and complexity. The year was 1480, and the Aztec Empire was at the height of its power, a sprawling dominion that stretched across vast swathes of Mesoamerica. Moctezuma was destined for greatness, the son of a noble family and a direct descendant of the revered rulers who had shaped the empire's destiny. From an early age, he was steeped in the traditions and expectations of his lineage, groomed to become a leader of his people. As a young boy, Moctezuma displayed an insatiable curiosity and an acute intelligence. He was drawn to the teachings of the priests, who imparted knowledge about the gods, the stars, and the intricate calendar that governed the lives of the Aztecs. He learned about the importance of tribute, warfare, and the delicate balance of power that kept the empire thriving. The stories of his ancestors, their conquests, and their divine mandate filled him with a sense of purpose. He understood that as a ruler, he would not only wield power, but also bear the weight of his people's hopes and fears. By the time he reached adulthood, Moctezuma had already earned a reputation as a fierce warrior and a sagacious leader. He participated in numerous campaigns that expanded the empire's borders, solidifying its dominance over rival city-states. His strategic mind and ability to inspire loyalty among his troops were unmatched. However, it was not just his prowess in battle that set him apart. It was his deep spiritual connection to the Aztec pantheon. He believed fervently in the god's will, interpreting omens and visions as signs of divine favor or warning. This belief would shape his decisions and ultimately define his reign. In 1502, Moctezuma ascended to the throne, an event marked by grandeur and ritual. The city was alive with festivities, the air thick with the scent of copal incense and the sounds of drums echoing through the streets. As he donned the feathered headdress of the Tlatoani, the weight of responsibility settled upon his shoulders. He was not merely a ruler, he was the intermediary between the gods and his people, tasked with maintaining the cosmic order that ensured prosperity and harmony. Moctezuma's reign began with a series of ambitious projects aimed at furthering the empire's greatness. He oversaw the expansion of Tenochtitlan, transforming it into a marvel of engineering and artistry. Temples dedicated to the gods rose higher, adorned with intricate carvings and vibrant murals that depicted the legends of creation and conquest. The city's infrastructure improved, with aqueducts and causeways facilitating trade and communication. Under his leadership, the empire flourished, and the tribute from conquered territories poured in, filling the coffers of the state and allowing for a golden age of culture and innovation. However, as the empire expanded, so too did the challenges that accompanied it. Moctezuma faced unrest among the subjugated peoples who chafed under the heavy burden of tribute and the demands of the Aztec military. He sought to quell dissent through diplomacy, offering gifts and fostering alliances, but the simmering resentment could not be easily extinguished. He understood that the strength of the empire depended not only on military might, but also on the loyalty and goodwill of its subjects. As the years passed, Moctezuma began to receive troubling reports from the southern borders of the empire. Stories of strange men with pale skin and beards began to circulate, tales of their arrival on the shores of Mexico. These men, it was said, spoke of a powerful ruler from across the sea, and their presence stirred unease among the Aztecs. Moctezuma, ever the astute observer of omens, interpreted these accounts as a portent of change. He consulted his priests, who pored over ancient texts and divined that the arrival of these foreigners was a sign from the gods. In 1519, the fateful encounter occurred. Hernán Cortés, a Spanish conquistador, landed on the shores of the Aztec Empire with a small band of soldiers seeking riches and glory. Moctezuma, intrigued and apprehensive, sent emissaries to greet the newcomers, offering gifts and hospitality. He believed that these men might be the return of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, prophesied to come back to reclaim his throne. In his mind, this was an opportunity to forge a new alliance, to bring the power of the gods to his side. Cortés and his men were welcomed into Tenochtitlan, where they were met with awe and reverence. The grandeur of the city, with its floating gardens and bustling marketplaces, captivated the Spaniards. Moctezuma, in his elaborate palace, sought to understand these strangers, to gauge their intentions. He was both fascinated and wary, caught between the desire for knowledge and the instinct for self-preservation. As he engaged with Cortés, he found himself drawn into a web of manipulation and deceit. The initial interactions between Moctezuma and Cortés were marked by a delicate dance of diplomacy. The Aztec ruler showered the conquistador with gifts, showcasing the wealth of his empire, while Cortés, in turn, played the role of a humble visitor, feigning respect and admiration. However, beneath the surface, a power struggle was brewing. Cortés, emboldened by the hospitality he received, began to see Moctezuma not as an ally, but as an obstacle to his ambitions. The Spaniards' thirst for gold and glory overshadowed any pretenses of friendship. As tensions escalated, Moctezuma found himself in an increasingly precarious position. His advisors urged him to act decisively, to rid the empire of these foreign invaders, yet his belief in the divine nature of their arrival held him back. He clung to the hope that the gods had sent these men for a purpose, that perhaps they could be harnessed to strengthen his rule. This hesitation would prove to be his undoing. In a shocking turn of events, the situation deteriorated rapidly. The Spanish forces, bolstered by alliances with discontented indigenous groups, turned against Moctezuma. The once welcoming city of Tenochtitlan became a battleground, chaos erupting in the streets as the Aztec warriors fought to defend their home. Moctezuma, trapped in his palace, watched helplessly as the empire he had worked so hard to build began to crumble around him. The weight of his decisions bore down on him, and he realized that his faith in the gods had led him to a tragic miscalculation. In the midst of the chaos, Moctezuma attempted to address his people, stepping onto the balcony of his palace to calm the unrest. However, his words fell on deaf ears. The sight of their ruler, once a figure of strength and divinity, now appeared weak and indecisive. The Aztec warriors, driven by a sense of betrayal and anger, turned against him. In that moment, Moctezuma understood that he had lost the trust of his people, and with it, his authority. As the Spanish forces tightened their grip on Tenochtitlan, Moctezuma faced a grim reality. He was taken captive by Cortés, a pawn in the conqueror's game. The once mighty Tlatoani was now a symbol of the empire's decline, a ruler stripped of power and dignity. His fate became intertwined with that of his people, as the invaders ravaged the city and its inhabitants. The vibrant culture that had flourished under his reign was threatened with annihilation. In the face of impending doom, Moctezuma's spirit began to wane. He was a man caught between two worlds, the divine and the earthly, and as the days turned into weeks, he grappled with the weight of his choices. He had sought to be a bridge between his people and the gods, but now he felt abandoned, lost in a sea of betrayal and despair. The visions that had once guided him now seemed distant, clouded by the harsh reality of conquest. In the final days of his life, Moctezuma was thrust into a tragic role, a pawn in a game that he had underestimated. As the Spanish continued their brutal campaign, he attempted to negotiate for peace, hoping to spare his people from further bloodshed. But Cortés, driven by ambition and greed, had no intention of honoring such pleas. In a cruel twist of fate, Moctezuma was ultimately killed during a skirmish, his life extinguished in the very city he had dedicated himself to protecting. The death of Moctezuma marked a turning point in the history of the Aztec Empire. His reign, once characterized by prosperity and ambition, ended in tragedy and loss. The empire, now vulnerable and fractured, succumbed to the relentless advance of the Spanish conquistadors. The temples that had once stood as symbols of power and devotion crumbled, and the vibrant culture of the Aztecs began to fade into memory. Yet the legacy of Moctezuma II endured long after his death. He became a symbol of the clash between two worlds, a representation of the complexities of leadership in times of crisis. His story served as a reminder of the fragility of power and the consequences of miscalculation. In the annals of history, he was immortalized not only as a ruler, but as a tragic figure caught in the tides of fate, a man who sought to bridge the divine and the earthly, only to find himself swept away by the currents of change. As centuries passed, the narrative of Moctezuma II would be retold, woven into the fabric of Mexican identity. His life became a tapestry of triumph and tragedy, a reflection of the resilience of a people who would rise again from the ashes of conquest. The memory of Tenochtitlan, with its canals and temples, would live on, a testament to the civilization that had flourished under his rule and the indomitable spirit of those who came after him.